Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. And on this miserable grey day outside, where my voice has actually started to go from the amount of recording and I also can't speak apparently, but the amount of other stuff that I've been doing this week. So I'm sorry if I'm taking more to drink and if I'm cracking up at times during this. But on this grey day, it seemed like a particularly pertinent time to talk about productivity. Why? Because today has been one of those days where I've just not felt like getting up and doing stuff. And as a result of not feeling like getting up and doing stuff, I have employed some of the methods and some of the things that I've talked about before on this channel in regards to motivation to get myself up and going. But then the question always comes back to, how do you maintain productivity after you've got motivated to start? And this is something that I also had someone ask me earlier in the week, which is why it was on my list, which is why I'm sat here. It just turns out that it's a very pertinent question to today. And as a result, I've got a handful of things here. Mostly, I've got 6 things rather here to go through today to help you maintain productivity after you've got started. So the first one, and this is one that I can attest to completely, is set your schedule for the following day, the night before you finish work the day before. You know, making sure that you prioritize what you need and all the rest of it. I have got my umpteen million little lists and pieces of paper off to one side and my notebook and stuff that I've got all of my stuff in. Either at the beginning of the week, I will sit down and churn out like a big list of what I need to do, and then for the following day I will highlight, before I finish in the evening on one day, I will highlight what I need to do the following day, and as a result that gives me my fairly straightforward and solid list of things that I need to do, both for the entire week, to count the week as a rounded off good thing that I have done, that I have achieved, that I have accomplished everything that I set out to do. As well as then also ensuring that everything on a particular day is done. So in this particular instance for this week, I had the 10 videos that I needed to record, and due to a couple of issues with internet and some other stuff, I had to spread those out over 3-ish days. And then on top of that, I've had a load of paperwork to do. I've got a review with some people next week. I've got some client questions, some other bits and pieces that have come up. And then I've got some other bits and pieces just in regards to making sure that my info is correct on various websites and business listings, making sure that I have the stuff down, the content down for my blog post on a Saturday, which if you've not gone and checked out the blog, the link is down in the description. It's the basic stuff at the moment, just starting out explaining what I do, how I do it, and all that kind of thing, but I'm going to be going over both old videos to annotate them and put up the write-ups of them there, as well as new stuff every now and again as well, that I can't always include in a video as easily, so, you know, feel free to check that out. Shameless plug. But in regards to setting yourself a schedule the evening before, it makes sure that you're organised, you're focused, and you know what you have to do. And then also, as we've talked about in other videos, it's a little bit of a Skinner box thing for yourself, and you can get a little hit of dopamine. You can give yourself a little reward after you've done X number of tasks. You can set up your own kind of reward schedule to make sure that once you start doing them, you keep doing them. The next thing is that when you feel mentally fatigued, it can really slow you down. And especially if you try and keep pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forwards, you're not necessarily always going to get somewhere. I know that when I used to work doing more on the paperwork side, office work side of things in a couple of different jobs, it would always come down to you'd get into your flow, you'd start getting the work done, and then as soon as someone interrupted you, broke your flow, broke your kind of concentration on a thing, then you would, when you tried to get back to it, you would start feeling drained, you would start feeling fatigued, you wouldn't be able to focus on it, you'd start making mistakes. And there was one thing that has always come up to me, especially after I did my coaching training, and that is that our bodies are mostly water. One of the best ways to kick your body out of its funk and kind of get yourself focused on things again, get up, walk around, get that water moving through your body again, and then replenish it. That's one of the reasons why water coolers are a thing. Go grab yourself a drink, get that fluid back in your system, get yourself moving, take a break, go outside, get some fresh air, just 5-10 minutes just to reset, just so that you're not where you've originally had this very square, perfect, focused kind of way of approaching things. As soon as that's interrupted, then it becomes more like you're a circle and the thing you're trying to force yourself up against is a square, and no matter how hard you try, you're not going to square that circle. So then getting up, going and taking a breather, getting a drink, sorting yourself out, coming back, sitting down and tackling it again, it gives you that time just to expand back out into the original shape you were before, so you match up better with what you're doing again. The third thing is multitasking. Now, there are lots of people that have lots of opinions on multitasking. There are an awful lot of women that seem to think that they're very good at it, or that it's even a thing. Our brains work in straight lines. We don't multitask. We can jump between one task and another at times very effectively, but it's never actually working on two things at once. As a result, though, our brain struggles. Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, it doesn't really matter. You are going to struggle when you have umpteen million tasks in front of you and they all have to be done at the same time. Simply put, reduce the amount. So, it's definitely something that, especially in the modern world, is something that's expected. It's something that people kind of throw at you. You have this long list of things that all needs to be done at apparently the same time, and there's no room for prioritization, and you've got lots of demands on you. Simply put, don't go try and do maximum two things at a time. Why? Because when it comes down to two things at a time, there are a few different studies and a few other little bits and pieces from around that have kind of shown that people who try to do more than that at a time end up becoming further distracted, the quality of work suffers, and so on and so forth. Where you can focus on one individual task at a time. Why? Because if you can give it your entire attention and then cross it off your list and reset and be ready for the next one, then you're going to have a higher quality of work, you're going to be more effective at working, and everything is going to work out more effectively and efficiently for you at a much higher quality than otherwise. So focus on one thing at a time, complete it properly and in full, and then move on to the next task. At times, obviously, that isn't a possibility, so jumping in and trying to minimize it to two things at a time at the very most, which still might be very difficult to do, is the best way to do it. Because obviously, if you're, I don't know, on the phone to someone and you're having to complete a spreadsheet based on various information, either from the person on the phone and from whatever else you're doing all at once, then obviously you're going to have to balance what you're doing between the completion of what you're working on and the call that you're having. But then in regards to other situations where your boss walks in and will give you 10 things to do and expects them all done by the same time, so you're having to multitask. Firstly, that's just bad management anyway, but secondly, the work is going to suffer. Try and chunk it down. Try and break it down into something smaller. Yeah, because otherwise, if you're distracting, it's not just distracting yourself. If you're separating your attention between so many different things, then you're only kind of losing the quality of work that you could otherwise provide, which then could come back on you at a later date. One of the things that I would say is that if your manager or boss or whoever throws a whole load of stuff at you all to be finished at once straight away, question it, talk to them about it, prioritize with them, so that then you know what you need to handle first and you can work with them on their priorities, running straight the way through it to maintain your quality of work but still achieve what they want done first. The next thing is number 4, which is eliminate potential distractions. It's very, very easy to go and just have a chat with people, get distracted by your phone, and there are going to be interruptions. As I said, there are someone coming in asking you a question when you're mid-flow, cutting you off, and so you're going to have to reset instead of just trying to bash your head against it for longer. But obviously it can be very difficult when it's not just someone who's come to talk, someone who's come to ask you a question that's actually work related and pertinent to what you're doing as well, but having a chat about what you did at the weekend, going and paying attention to what's on your phone, having a TV on in the background with, even if it's just the news and stuff. Our eyes will as people, we tend to gravitate towards the thing in the room that is entertaining. So, if there's a TV on, our eyes are more likely to focus on it. It's just one of these things. It's part of our surroundings that we are attracted to, and that's one of the reasons why we spend so much time in front of screens. They are that element in the environment that provides entertainment, information, stimulus of various different sorts that draws us to it. Simply put, cut it out. There's always, whilst there is a good reason at times for especially people in management positions to never have their door closed unless there is something significant going on, the opposite is also true. Making sure that you also always keep your door closed to minimize distraction will allow you to overall build up a better quality of work, because there will be a lack of distractions. It's a tough thing to try and eliminate all distractions. Here where I am, where I'm recording with you guys or wherever I'm doing, I've got lots of bits and pieces on my PC that could distract me, but thankfully I would need to actually activate them to do that. They're not just going to pop out at me. But then there could be people yelling outside. My phone goes off routinely during videos when it's either a message from a client, an email coming through, or something like that. And so whilst it's not something that I'm going to pay attention to right at this moment, obviously if I was sat here quite more quietly by myself and didn't have the pressing issue of having to talk to you guys, then it might be something that would break my flow, distract me, make it pull me away to a different matter that would then negatively impact the work that I was doing. It's that thing that requires that little bit of self-discipline, or can require you to actively kind of build up these defenses around yourself to eliminate those distractions. Making sure that your phone goes on to silent if you have a very pressing piece of work and you know that it will distract you, cut it out. If you know that you're a social media addict, then block for a short time, for a temporary period, block sites like Facebook, Twitter, whatever, until such time as you have finished the task that you were doing, and then reactivate them. It's one of those things that you just need to be strict with yourself on. And obviously, when it comes to other people being the distraction, someone can knock on your door and it will snap you out of what you're doing. You can't necessarily avoid that, but you can minimize it by putting up a sign, by having a conversation with your colleagues and communicating well with them, and making sure that they understand what you're doing, when you're doing it, and when you can and can't be disturbed. It's that set of things that you need to both communicate and manage in and around yourself and in regards to other people, that again just requires that little bit of strictness, that little bit of focus. The next thing is imposing deadlines on yourself and making sure you stick to them. Now, this is kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning in regards to a list with things that you can tackle individually, but the biggest problem here is that people may very well impose a deadline, but then if they've got wiggle room, they will take it. The number of times that I have had clients who have said that they are going to do this thing on this day, and they're going to tackle it right then and there, and they're going to do it with this amount of time, and all that kind of thing. And then after a little while, it gets dropped. It's this thing that they go, oh, well, actually, I've got a little bit more wiggle room. I could do it tomorrow morning, and instead that means I could go out tonight. I could go out tonight with friends, have a great time, and then I'd be fresh, I'd be cool, and I'd go and just tackle the thing in the morning because I've got those extra few hours, so I could do that. No, don't do that. The same way that if you were planning out any kind of other kind of strict plan, be it a budget, be it a meeting plan, be it anything else, it's something that needs to be tackled. If you're someone that works very well under deadlines, then deliberately shorten your deadline to make sure that you are pushing yourself, because obviously you can't grow, you can't advance, you can't progress without that stretch area. So cutting off 10, 15, 20 minutes of time on the amount that you would have for that task, and then trying to stick to it, means that you have to push yourself to be more efficient. You have to you have to push yourself to provide the same quality with limited time. That's obviously not something that everyone will do, but there have been times when I myself have gone, I'm not doing this well enough anymore. I need to cut down on the amount of time I have. Videos, for instance, again, another example from me. At one point, I was having to do maybe 2 videos a day because I wasn't completely sure of my setup, because I wasn't entirely sure of how I wanted to approach things. I wasn't most comfortable. I would have to do several takes. And yet now, where I can do most videos to one extent or another in one take, as long as there aren't other things that interfere with it, and for the most part where I'm able to go, right, this is my setup, I know what it's doing, I just need to kick it on. Do I want to improve my setup? Absolutely. But that requires other things, for instance, upgrades to my PC, upgrades to my kit here, that I can't necessarily tackle every time I sit down to record. But in regards to the deadlines for recording, I now try and limit myself to at most a couple of days a week, and that has freed up time for me to do other things that are just as, if not more important. And making sure that I've limited myself and stuck to those limits and kind of knocked myself down to force myself to be more efficient and so on and so forth. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit of a struggle. Sometimes, like this week, where internet happens, where someone, my internet provider was doing maintenance, and so I was without it for a little while, and so I couldn't tackle this straight off, as it were. In those situations, yes, absolutely, you can't always avoid those things, you can't always deal with those things directly, and it requires some flexibility. But otherwise, I've tried to limit my time so that I can become more efficient, more expert, and more professional in the way that I tackle these things, so that I'm not wasting extra time with uncertainty and lack of confidence. If I don't have the time to be unconfident, if I don't have the time to be inefficient, then I'm not going to be either of those things, and I'm going to get the job done better. But as a result, yes, so setting yourself deadlines, making sure that you stick to them. Again, following up with little rewards. Every 5 things that you're doing on your list that you've set the night before or set earlier in your week or whatever, go back, give yourself a little reward, give yourself some energy, give yourself a little pick-me-up or whatever else, just to a little shot of dopamine in your brain, just to get you back on track and keep you going. And the more of those you get, the more positives you give yourself throughout your list, the more likely you are then to want to stick to deadlines rather than seeing them as some kind of imposition and negative. And then the last thing that I've said before, I have in fact done entire videos on this, is keep your workspace clean and clutter free. Now, I might have my organised pile of madness over here, but that's the thing. It's organised and it's a pile. It doesn't take up my entire desk. It doesn't take up anything. In fact, it's just sat here next to my PC tower, where I'm just able to reach across, grab what I need, I know where it is, and I can tackle it straight away. If you have a cluttered desk, then a cluttered desk is a symptom of a cluttered mind, as they say, and as a result you aren't going to be as efficient, you're not going to be as productive, because you are going to waste time looking for things, you are going to waste time on being uncertain of where you left something. Yeah, so if you've got a workspace that's a kitchen, if you've got a workspace that's a desk, if you've got a workspace that is an engineering lab or a garage, then no matter what it is, make sure that you are organised, that everything has its own place, and that you are on top of things. I have 2 emails, one that I've had for kind of more professional emails, one that I've had for personal emails, and both of them are chock full of just shit. Why? Because I don't organise them. I don't go through them. I don't check them. I will glance through them every day when my phone tells me that they've been sent through, and I'll see what's there. My company email, however, the one that is actually listed below for inquiries and for people wanting to send me questions or wanting to send me ideas for videos, that down there is completely clear. the inbox is empty at all times, because whenever an email comes through, I go, I check it, I look at it, I go over it. If it's something I need to reply to, fine. If it's YouTube, then I might acknowledge it and just file it away. For instance, if you guys have left comments for me and stuff like that, I tend to try and get to comments, tend to try and get to things when I'm uploading videos or when I'm having to come back to YouTube anyway, rather than just coming back and forth to YouTube non-stop. And so as a result, when those comments and those likes and people subscribing, again, thank you to new people who have subscribed, when all of those things kind of stack up in my inbox, I'll go through them, I'll file them away in their different folders, and then my inbox will be empty again. Why? Because it means that I never have to worry about where an email is that I needed, or where something else important has gone. You know, if it's someone that has me as a recognized contractor, I know where their emails are. I can go and take a look and see if they've left an update for me. If it's the coaching academy and the people that I deal with through there that have come to get in contact with me in some way, shape, or form, then I know where their emails are. If there are other bits and pieces in regards to the way that YouTube is screwing me over this time, or the way that something has been loaded to a drive that I use, or something that has been a comment or a connection has been left on a blog or another business listing or something like that, then it all comes through to that one place and I can tackle it directly and easily. Same goes for anyone else who's tackling things like administrative stuff. If you know where it all is, if it's all very well organized, then you don't have to waste time looking for it. You don't have to waste time worrying about it. You can just tackle it directly. And as a result, it allows you to be more productive. It frees up that time. It makes it easier just to find stuff. You're confident in knowing where these things are, which means that you're going to approach those issues more simply and more easily, with less fuss and less hassle. But anyway, guys, those are the 6 things. Those are the 6 things that I have used myself, as said in some of my examples, but also that I have seen other people use, that I've suggested to others, that have been developed with and around me, to ensure that productivity is maintained, even if it's a bit difficult or a tougher time. Because even if you're having the worst day ever, you got up on the wrong side of bed, your boiler blew up in the morning, so you had no hot water for a shower, the bus on the way was crammed full of people, and as you got off the bus you got soaked as it went past you. You know, you've got miserable weather outside, and then you get into work and your boss dumps 50 things on you all at once. You know, it's even if you've got all of those things, if you've planned out what you need to do, if you've got your various limits set on deadlines, on what you can be distracted by, what you can't be distracted by, if you take a break every now and again just for a few minutes just to reset between tasks, if you have your little rewards for yourself, if you make sure that everything in your workplace is clear and clean and in its own place, so you know how to get hold of it and where it is, it's just going to free up so much time for you. It's going to make you more confident in the way that you approach your work, and it's going to be something that just generally helps you succeed throughout the rest of that day, even if it's the worst day possible. So anyway, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are there any other things that you would suggest in regards to how you keep productivity high, how you keep things going? And obviously this is personal productivity that we're talking about here. If you guys are interested in me doing one about teams and keeping teams more productive, then please let me know, and I'll drop one. I'll drop it onto my list for videos to do. But otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.